So you may have noticed for the past 7 or 8 months, I really haven't been posting any videos. And there's a reason for that. I now have a 7-month-old daughter. And to be honest with you, I just wanted to spend this time formulating those core memories, learn as much as possible, growing in all the ways that I can, and designing my own reality. I mean, sometimes the reality designer must design their own reality. And that's what I've been doing. And before we get into the topic of this video, which is should you still learn how to code in 2025, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory on me first. So right now, I'm currently living in China. I'm working as a full-time software engineer remotely, and I've been here for about 3 months or so. And I mean, really, it's its own video altogether, honestly, the differences between America and China, living standards, internet access, culture, but we'll kind of keep it brief here. The first thing I guess I'll say is that the difference is the internet in America is vastly different than the internet in China. The first thing you're going to realize is that the moment you come here, all your services just don't even work. Google, YouTube, most websites is just gone. And so that was the first challenge that I had to navigate. But this question recently has come up, which is, should you still even learn how to code? I mean, why should you? All you got to do these days is type in a little chat box, vibe code, an entire application is made for you, and you don't have to learn how any of it works. Just whenever you run into a problem, just keep typing away and it just solves it right away. And I understand the context of that question, like why should I even learn? It's probably like even a beginner question, really, which is someone who doesn't know how to code right now. Should I still learn how to code in 2025? And then find all the reasons why they should or shouldn't based upon what they probably already want to do. And I understand why you would want to ask that question because it makes sense. I want to be prepared. But also, it's kind of ironic because the number one way that you prepare for the future is by learning as much as possible. So already there, you probably should just learn how to code anyway. And for me, learning how to code taught me something so much more deeper, I think, about myself, about probably even the nature of my own reality, which is I've always had problems thinking things through to the end, finding a starting position and how to find an end position, and figuring out a way how to get there from point A to point B. To be honest with you, I mean, in high school, I really kind of struggled actually when it came to learning more complex topics because all throughout my school career, I basically got A's and B's until I no longer did. And that's effectively what they call the gifted kid syndrome, where you're just naturally gifted in life up until the point where you actually have to study complex, hard topics, and then all of a sudden you're no longer gifted and you just give up because you never learned those studying qualities. And to be honest with you, when I started to learn how to code, when I started internet digital business, when I started picking up valuable skills that were helpful in life, it really helped me pick up my whole attitude about how I was approaching everything, really. And so the number one thing that I would say that if you're starting to learn how to code right now, or you're not really serious about it, and you're kind of intimidated that AI is just going to take your job, to be honest with you, you probably should just still learn how to code because it's probably the most productive thing that you can do right now. Now, I do use AI in a lot of my workflows. I use Cursor. Obviously, everyone uses Cursor or Windsurf, or there's other technologies, V0, Bolt, and Lovable, all these different things. But I think the individual technology that you choose to use doesn't really matter because ultimately, if you don't implement some type of version control into how you're building, I've heard stories on Twitter and Reddit where people will build a whole project, never even use GitHub, and one day their app just completely crashes and gets all malformed because they never even learned version control or how to use Git. And so effectively the whole application gets all messed up because it's literally just one prompt away from screwing up everything. And that's what I guess I'm trying to talk about when it comes to should you still learn how to code, which is there's so many more aspects to learning software and programming than just the code itself. I mean, code is really just syntax, right? I mean, before we would just go on Stack Overflow or Google the error that we're getting in the console, and eventually in 5, 10 minutes, we'd probably find an answer. All LLMs these days really do is just compress the time to find an answer. Really, I mean, I've seen a lot of code, especially the code that I've written these days, where it just totally generates an entirely shit output. Just an implementation that you would definitely not want to use in production. But if you don't have the eyes to see what's wrong or the bigger context window to see your whole application and why you wouldn't want to implement that code, then you really won't know it, whether it's going to actually break your application or whether it's good code or bad code, etc. And that's where developing that extra lens to the code also helps you, where you can start to see what's good and what's bad code. And that's really the biggest skill right now that I think you need as a software engineer to make yourself stand out in the marketplace or even build anything that's valuable at all. You have to know when something is actually good quality versus bad quality. And if you don't know how to code, then no matter how much you're developing or working with AI, it's not really going to actually help you. And the bigger thing I think with all this, which is, there's always more things that we're going to have to work on. Even in my own job, we're using AI a lot these days, and all AI is helping us do is just move faster, build more complex things with more different connections, and effectively that's just going to keep on spiraling out more and more to where your job used to be one tiny thing, but now your job is a bunch of things, which might have been in the domain of being about 4 or 5 people's worth of work, but now you can just do it. And that's really just probably going to scale out to where one person can do 20 different jobs all at once. And you're effectively just become the code reviewer or the manager. To be honest, this job's not going away. There's going to be more and more things to build. I'm getting more and more optimistic about our usages of AI. And really, once you learn how to code, you'll also learn how to code your brain, and that's also just as important. So stay tuned for the next video where I talk about the differences in living in China versus America, because I got some hot takes.